Welcome into OutKick the show. I'm your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic Tuesdays. We are now into October. Next month is the election. Tonight is the vice presidential debate. I'll be live on Fox Nation with Pete Hegseth, with Tommy Lahren, and with a variety of Fox Nation-related talent. Should be a lot of fun, and you can watch that if you are a Fox Nation subscriber. I'm sure it'll get clipped and shared as Tommy and I will be reacting on behalf of OutKick to the VP debate tonight. So that is where I will be. That is why there will not be a live OutKick reaction show from me. But you'll be able to follow me reacting live to everything that's taken place during the course of the debate. On Twitter. That is where I post at Clay Travis, and you can get me there. All right, we got a lot to talk about here. NFL Week 4 in the books. What did we learn? We'll run through NFL Week 4. Monster audience for Georgia, Alabama. Pray for CBS Sports, the single dumbest sports media decision in any of our lives. CNN's trying to put a paywall in place. We'll see how that goes. We got a war potentially in the Middle East as Iran has attacked Israel. Longshoreman strike. And we had two different deaths in the world of sports that happened yesterday. Pete Rose and Dikembe Mutombo, one from baseball, one from basketball. We will react. Also, the Major League Baseball playoffs are underway as I am speaking to all of you. The Detroit Tigers in the third inning have a 3-0 lead over the Houston Astros. Games will be going on all day today. October is, in my opinion, the best month for sports fans everywhere. And I want you to go ahead and sign up for Prize Picks. You can make your picks in less than 60 seconds, turn sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. You can win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. And right now, you should sign up. I will give you a pick for Thursday. But if you use the code OutKick, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus, guaranteed. Code OutKick. We won with our Thursday night pick last week. That is a 10-to-1 payout. Boom. I hope all of you enjoyed it. But right now, $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. Like I said, it's guaranteed. Code OutKick to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All right. What did we learn in the NFL? I want to start with Monday Night Football last night. And in an incredibly sad game, I watched the Dolphins against the Titans. If you ever criticized Tua Tagovailoa and said, hey, he's just a system quarterback, you've got Tyreek Hill, anybody could throw to him, you got Jalen Waddle, you got a bevy of talented backs, you got a talented head coach calling plays, anybody could do it. Yeah, no. Miami is good when Tua's on the field. They are awful when he is not on the field. And they were awful, truly awful last night. They allowed the Titans to score 31 points. So apologize to Tua if you ever criticized him. On the other side of the ball, I don't see how in the world Will Levis, who is statistically the worst quarterback in the NFL so far, he had another atrocious interception to start this game. Didn't see the defensive lineman dropping into coverage, hit him right in the chest. Guy managed to catch it between his legs. Will Levis can't play anymore. I'm not saying Mason Rudolph is the answer. I'm not saying Mason Rudolph is going to be perfect. But I do think if Mason Rudolph were the quarterback right now, the Titans would be 3-1 instead of 1-3. And I don't think, personally, that there should be any play at all going forward for Will Levis. He's atrocious. He is what all of us who watched him play college football said he was. He doesn't see the field well. He makes poor decisions. And I said this on the day the Titans watched him. You don't have to like me. I watch a lot of college football. And it's relatively rare that I watch a guy who is not impressing me in college, and I say, you know what? I want that guy on my team in the NFL. I said, after watching the NFL last year, Jaden Daniels looks like the number 1 overall pick to me, and we're going to get to him in a moment, but so far he's been the best quarterback in the NFL through 4 games. And I'm not surprised, and people who watched him at LSU are not necessarily surprised. Sometimes I'm wrong, right? Bryce Young has not panned out. I was wrong about that. I think it's probably a lot of his size, right? That's a reason why he hasn't panned out. It's not because he didn't see the field well in college. So I think Mason Rudolph should be the quarterback for the Titans going forward. I think Will Levis should be benched. I've seen enough to know that he's not the answer. And I'm not saying that the Dolphins have an elite pass rush, but Mason Rudolph made a lot of quick decisions that kept him from getting sacked anywhere near as often as Will Levis. Lions get past the Seahawks. Basically, Jared Goff was perfect. And when Jared Goff is good, and he can be really, really good, it's really difficult to beat the Detroit Lions. Last night, Jared Goff, 18 for 18. Legitimately a perfect quarterback rating, did not miss a single throw. Sometimes he's not dialed in and doesn't play at a high level, Jared Goff, typically against really high-level competition. But when he plays like he does last night, the Lions are going to be virtually impossible to beat. Big win for the Lions. What else did we learn in the NFL action? Jets lose to the Broncos. This is a bad loss for the Jets. And the Aaron Rodgers experiment so far not looking very good. Look, here were Bo Nix's numbers. 12 for 25 for 60 yards. It is pretty indefensible to lose a game when the starting quarterback on the other side has 60 yards passing. The total yardage for the Denver Broncos, only 186 yards. Problems in New York. Vikings get the win over the Packers, remain undefeated. Jordan Love comes back, throws a couple of picks, I believe. Looked okay. But so far, Sam Darnold looks like the MVP of the NFL. He had 3 touchdown passes. Jordan Love, 4 touchdown passes, but 3 picks. Not good enough to get it done. Sam Darnold, through 4 weeks, believe it or not, maybe the NFL MVP. And he's only probably starting because J.J. McCarthy got injured and is out for the season. Falcons get the win over the Saints. That's an underrated rivalry between the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. The Falcons 2-2, the Saints 2-2. Remember how everybody was super excited about the Saints with the 2-0 start. Their offense looked unstoppable. Usually everybody catches up. Kirk Cousins, meanwhile, has got the Falcons looking solid. Decent performance from him. The Bucs come back and whip the Eagles. I don't know exactly what's going on with Nick Sirianni's team, but I do know they gave incredibly big dollars to Jalen Hurts, and he's been mediocre so far this year. And Baker Mayfield has significantly outplayed Jalen Hurts, and last week was a debacle. The Broncos went on the road and really took it to the Bucs. They came back, the Bucs did, as the underdog to get to 3-1. Joe Burrow's making a ton of money. They finally got a win in Cincinnati. We're 0-3. They're now 1-3. Panthers, not a very good team. No great surprise there. Switching to Andy Dalton's not going to solve everything. Texans have taken an early commanding lead in the AFC South. C.J. Stroud continuing to grow as a quarterback. And meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence, in many ways, even though he played decently, regressing in terms of what he's going to do. The Jags gave him a monster amount of money. He's now 0-4. A lot of these quarterbacks that got big dollar, $50 million plus contracts, not performing at a very elite level. Armando Salguero has a good story about it. And a lot of these guys, frankly, didn't necessarily deserve it. But if you're in that middle tier, you're so afraid of falling out of the middle tier where you're just kind of okay, that you're willing to buy into your guy being an answer, and it doesn't necessarily pan out, but you go and give him big money, and now the Jags are hamstrung, and things look like a mess there. Justin Fields played decently for the Steelers. It wasn't enough to get past the Colts. Joe Flacco, yes, Joe Flacco came in reserve, showed the cannon still has some juice. Anthony Richardson injured. Joe Flacco leads the Colts to the win over the Steelers. Flacco played a lot of games against the Steelers over the years. Bears get the win over the Rams. Commanders, Jaden Daniels is playing lights out. They're now 3-1. And if you look at Jaden Daniels, 26 of 30, he is completing passes, I believe, at an 82% overall level so far this season. That's unheard of for any level quarterback in the NFL, much less a rookie. And they blew out the Cardinals in that matchup. 49ers get the win over the Patriots. Patriots have no offense. Gerard Mayo got the win in week 1. Patriots fans were ecstatic. They're now 1-3. They can't score. They can't make plays. They don't have offensive talent. Raiders get the win over the Browns. Deshaun Watson continues to look like the worst quarterback contract in the history of the NFL. Browns have fallen to 1-3. Raiders are 2-2. And remember, I would argue, I think a lot of Browns fans would agree, Browns offense looked better with Joe Flacco than it does with Deshaun Watson. Chiefs get the win to stay undefeated against the Chargers in a defensive battle. And how about Derrick Henry? This is one I was completely wrong on. Ravens blew out the Bills. Bills were undefeated to this point. Derrick Henry ran for 199 yards. And when he ran on that 87-yard touchdown, he looked like he was shot out of a cannon. This guy is aging, but he looks like he's aging like a fine wine because he had 24 carries for 199 yards, 8.3 average per carry, and also had a receiving touchdown. Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, I thought it would be a hell of a combo, and so far it looks like I was right. All right, all my NFL Week 4 reactions right there. We'll get ready for the Week 5 of the NFL on Thursday. Kelly Stewart and I will have a breakdown of everything in the gambling world on the fade. Also, my OutKick 6-pack will go up on Wednesday. A little bit later tonight, I think the college football picks will go up, getting you ready for the next week of action. Now, nearly 12 million people watched Georgia, Alabama, the game that I was at. We interviewed Donald Trump at halftime. A massive, huge number, the most people to watch a regular season ABC or ESPN game since 2017, according to the press release that is out there. And I want to say this. We do not talk enough about the disastrous decision from CBS Sports to give up the SEC first-round draft pick. I know many of you know it, but CBS got the SEC game of the week, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, for basically a generation of television viewership. They had the opportunity. I got to take you behind the scenes here for those of you who don't know this story. When the SEC added Texas A&M and Missouri, Mike Slive, then the commissioner of the SEC, went to CBS and said, hey, we want to extend this deal. All we need you to do is give us a per capita, basically, increase in what you're paying. Around that time, CBS was only paying a little bit over $50 million a year for the SEC game of the week. They got the SEC championship game rolled in on that. They got every best SEC game. And CBS just said, hey, the SEC just said, hey, we want you to continue to pay the same rate, but now we just want it for 14 teams instead of for 12. And if you're willing to do that, we'll extend you for 20 years at the current market rate of 2012. You know what ESPN did? They said, yeah, we're all in. Credit to ESPN. They got this right. ESPN said, not only that, we're going to start the SEC network. It will launch in 2014, and we're going to increase our payment to the SEC a lot. Brilliant, smart decision by John Skipper and ESPN. CBS said, no, we're not going to do that. We'll renegotiate the deal when our deal comes up. They had an opportunity to get another generation of the SEC game of the week. Instead, the SEC took that game to ABC, ESPN, increased their payout substantially, and CBS ended up paying triple what they were paying for the SEC to get the third or fourth round draft pick every week on average in the Big Ten. A game that nobody watches by and large. I think they got USC Wisconsin this weekend on CBS. Adam, look up what the USC Wisconsin number was compared to $12 million for Georgia, Alabama. I bet CBS did 2.5 or 3 million. That's my guess. And they're never, by and large, getting the Big Ten game of the week. For people out there who don't understand this, and there are still a lot of them, Fox and NBC, by and large, get the Big Ten game of the week. And most of the time it's Fox. Like Fox is going to get Michigan going up against Texas. They got Wisconsin, Bama. They're going to get Ohio State, Michigan. Fox is going to get almost all of the big Big Ten games. And then NBC and CBS get a small footprint of that overall conference. And they're paying triple for it now. It is, I think, and this is no hyperbole, the single worst sports media decision that I have ever seen a television network make for CBS to give up the SEC game of the week. Now the SEC, with Oklahoma and Texas, increasing the overall quality of game to an even higher level than it was before. And the Big Ten, third or fourth round game for CBS, it's not going to be anywhere near the draw. Everybody who made that decision, frankly, should get fired for utter incompetence associated with that. Okay, so that is those are my thoughts. CNN has announced that they are going to try to turn CNN.com into a paywalled site. Now, for those who don't know, according to the writing and ComScore and all the sites out there, OutKick is the second most popular right-wing website on the entire internet. Number one is FoxNews.com. Number two is OutKick. You can go search that out yourself. It's a tremendous accomplishment for OutKick. That's just web. That's not counting all the tens of millions of video views that we're getting every month on TikTok, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. It doesn't even count that. I'm just talking about the direct web address audience. Number two overall. CNN now, which already failed with CNN Plus, which they shut down after like a month or whatever it was and took a multi-$100-million write-off. CNN now is going to put a paywall in place and charge $3.99 a month for heavy users of CNN. I think this is going to be a disaster. First of all, CNN has almost no brand. I don't agree with a lot of the things that MSNBC says, but they have a fan base. New York Times has a fan base. CNN has no fan base. Most people, it's just kind of their default web address when they visit. Charging them for it is not going to work. I think this metered paywall business is going to be a disaster, but it speaks to how desperate CNN is to try to justify its news gathering cost, because nobody really pays for CNN's journalism, and they don't really have any substantially popular or powerful broadcasters. Rachel Maddow used to have a huge audience. Jesse Waters now, Sean Hannity, Greg Gutfeld. There are a lot of people on Fox News that produce big audiences. CNN doesn't have that. They might do well when there's actual breaking news, but otherwise, they're in trouble. I think the CNN paywall is going to be a disaster. 2 people died yesterday, and I want to take a moment before we finish the show to talk about them. Pete Rose, all-time hit king in baseball history, died at the age of 83. To me, Pete Rose should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. I understand that he admitted to gambling and that he was banned for life from baseball in 1989, but his on-field performance is the greatest hitter in terms of longevity and career hits that baseball will probably ever see. If there is a Hall of Fame in baseball, Pete Rose has to be in it. You can put something in there about how he gambled on the sport and the suspension and the lifetime ban and all of those things. I think it's a part and parcel of his story, but I don't see this as a remotely difficult decision to make as to whether Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. You can't tell the story of baseball without Pete Rose included. And I understand baseball uniquely has gotten hung up on steroids, and there are challenges associated with the steroids era. But some of those players, for instance, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, among others, would have been Hall of Famers even if they had never touched steroids. To me, those guys should be members of the Hall of Fame as well. I understand that there are rules associated with the game, but given how much sports gambling has taken over sports, DraftKings, FanDuel, and the like, the idea that you would be banning someone for betting on sports when sports gambling has become probably the number one advertiser on almost every program in all of sports. Heck, the Hall of Fame itself may be presented by DraftKings or FanDuel someday. I think it makes it incredibly difficult to justify Pete Rose not being in the Hall of Fame. To me, it is a no-brainer. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I wish it had happened during his lifetime. And I think most baseball fans agree with me. Dikembe Mutombo. In fact, I'll put up a poll. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow based on what the result of that poll is. Dikembe Mutombo died also at the age of 58. Incredible guy who gave a ton back to his native continent of Africa, helped to build hospitals, helped so many people who are impoverished, in addition to being a heck of a basketball player in the process. Went to Georgetown. One of the most famous lines of all time, Dikembe Mutombo learning English while he was at Georgetown. Adam, you can look up. I think Dikembe Mutombo went on to speak many different languages, if I'm not mistaken. But one of the iconic stories surrounding Dikembe Mutombo when he was playing for the John Thompson-era Georgetown Hoyas is that he reportedly walked into a party at Georgetown and said in his African English accent, "Who wants to sex the Mutombo?" Which is, you can imagine in his voice, one of the funniest lines you can imagine any athlete of any era ever uttering while walking into a college party. It went iconic. It became incredibly connected to his brand. Who wants to sex the Mutombo? 58 years old, NBA Hall of Famer. According to Adam, Dikembe Mutombo spoke French, English, Spanish, Portuguese, 5 African languages, as well as obviously English too. Rip to Dikembe Mutombo and Pete Rose, and best to all of their family and friends as they deal with their loss. 2 icons of American sports, Pete Rose and Dikembe Mutombo, dead in the past 24 hours. All right. I love all of you. DBAP, unless you need to SBAP. I will be live tonight on Fox Nation with I think it's like a multi-hour. We got a pregame VP debate, and then we've got a postgame VP debate with Pete Hegseth, Tommy Lahren, Morgan Ortagus, I believe, is also going to be there as part of a panel discussion. You can watch that on foxnation.com. I'm sure it'll be clipped and shared elsewhere. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow if you're not watching that on the Clay and Buck Show, as well as the OutKick show here. Again, DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I'm Clay Travis. This has been OutKick, the show.